Come, Nerevar, come. Witness the most unhinged NPCs you can find in the Elder Scrolls series that are not protagonists or antagonists of any main quest. No, most Shivering Isles residents do not qualify, as they are their own particular kind of unhinged. The amount of wood elves on this list is disproportional. No, this proves that they are the most unhinged Enwas in all Elder Scrolls. For this sermon, we will focus on Morrowind, which does not have that many Bosmer Enwas, but you will see my point quite soon. We have to start with Maik the Liar. Maik the Liar is nothing more than a farm tool full of falsehoods. He keeps appearing all over Tamriel in different eras, so an outdated farm tool. How can I say this tactfully? That one will say anything to anyone for little reason more than his own amusement. He's a harmless fool, to be sure. But I would take anything he tells you with a wheelbarrow of salt. Well, you see, Maik claims to be a wanderer, and I do believe he is. However, I find it a little suspicious. Why would he go wandering when so many dangerous creatures live along the roads and paths? Surely the risk outweighs whatever he can possibly be gaining from traveling so much. I don't wish him any ill will, mind you. It just seems inadvisable. You would be far better off following me, I don't lie. Well, not to Dunmer. Then we have Fargoth. Oh dear. He's an odd one. He's a Bosmer, after all. But the heart-aching story of his tragic loss of his precious ring. Sniff. Oh wait, I haven't cried in thousands of years, and I am definitely not going to start crying over a ring, but really I prefer not to get involved in interspecies disputes. That's not an activity of the gods. I mean, I've got enough trouble with the monsters running around these ruins. I'd think this Fargoth and you, though both Enwas of the Deepwood, could have a peaceful arrangement. Gaynor is quite possibly the most insufferable Enwa to ever draw breath. His unbridled self-confidence knows no limits, and he is relentless. I have the misfortune of knowing him personally. He has an inflated sense of his own importance, and seems to fancy himself a philosopher. He would bore the flesh off the bones of a mud crab with his never-ending self-aggrandizement. All I can say is that a little bit of humility would do him some good. Well, he certainly is difficult. I'll give him that. I'm not sure how, but it seems his hubris just makes him stronger. You'd think having a bit of false confidence would make him less challenging to defeat, but apparently not. Your best bet probably is to find whatever secret is making him so strong and neutralize it, if possible. Otherwise, good luck. Also, I do not know why the two unhinged wood elves in Morrowind are called Fargoth and Gaynor. Oh, this is also a reminder. If you are enjoying this sermon, please raise your thumbs, subscribe to my sermons, and write on the parchment down below to honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned. Uncle Sweetshare is an absolute nutter, that he is. What does he keep under that ridiculous hat? That's the real question right there. No, honestly, that fellow really is off his nut. You can taste the moon's sugar when you eat his candy. I don't exactly recommend it, but hey, if you want to try some, go nuts. You might just start flying, or turn into a lizard, or both. Not that I've actually tried it, no, I only read about it. But I've heard that the effects can be rather interesting. He also has a whole poem that he composed littering the Isle of Solstheim. His farm tool assistant, Menashe, indulged himself in too much moon sugar. That is enough moon sugar to render a farm tool inoperable. Can you imagine this, Nerevar? Uncle Sweetshare sure shares large shares of his candy. You bring this unhinged uncle to justice rather quickly, and for some reason you have the option to spare him, but not me. Is this how you honor this sixth house and the tribe unmourned, Nerevar? Well, Crassius Curio is a sleazy, conniving pervert, if you pardon me for being impolite. I can't believe that man is even able to breathe above ground, let alone running for a public office. When it comes to the Argonian maid, words tasteless, vulgar, and farm tool come to mind. I just wish someone would keep the farm tools away from him and bring them to my plantation. If those lizards have any sense, they'd stay far, far away from that author. I'm going to make sure that I stay far, far, far away as well. Thank you very much. I'd much rather not end up in a tome called 6 Shades of Dagoth. Nerevar, you seem to have your common sense intact, and here I was, afraid I was going to have a long, drawn-out talk with you about those awful farm tools being exploited for Urk. No, I can't finish that thought. It's simply too disgusting. They're farm tools, with the minds of farm tools, and the author is exploiting them for his own twisted pleasures, if you can even call them that. Obviously, they belong on a Dunmer farm. Dagoth Ur is certainly not the worst fellow. I know I'm breaking my rule here, but he technically is not as involved in the main quest as some other characters, so he deserves a mention. Certainly, he's got his vices, the most obvious being his unique taste in women, but even he is far and away better than the likes of Crassius Curio, at least in my opinion. I'd trust my safety with Dagoth in the name of Oblivion than that skeezy author of lusty Argonian maids any day. As for his other work, the Telvanni wizards such as Dagoth were, are, and will be some of the most potent magickers in all of Tamriel, bar none. And hey, if he wants to use his magics to give himself some extra time on this ball of dirt we call Nirn, well, I may not agree with it, and I might think it's a hair creepy, but at least he's not perving after farm tools or writing garbage. Oh, the things I've seen in Morrowind, but none compare to the bizarre spectacle of Thorana, a Telvanni counselor residing in a tower of Telbranora. This summer mage, wrinkled and seemingly past her prime, hides a volatile madness beneath a mask of harmlessness. Be warned, Nerevar, for dealing with Thorana is like dancing on the edge of a volcano. One wrong step and you'll be burnt ashyams. Despite her age and evident insanity, Thorana holds immense power, even surpassing the Archmagister. This power, however, manifests in unpredictable ways. She might reward you with a Daedric cuirass and greaves for simply retrieving a bow, showering you with riches for seemingly trivial tasks. Yet, this generosity is fleeting, her moods changing as quickly as the winds of Vardenfell. Her tower reflects her distorted mind. Decked with rotting quama eggs, a testament to her use of farm tools who mine them, it houses an unsheathed farm tool named Razar. This unsettling arrangement fuels whispers of Thorana's cruelty and contributes to the numerous death threats hanging over her head, even within her own house Telvanni. Speaking with Thorana is an exercise in futility. Conversations veer off topic, with most answers leading to rambling anecdotes about her childhood. Even her advisors warn of her unpredictable behavior, urging caution and providing escape scrolls in case things turn sour. Finally, last on our Morrowind list is Tamriel. I think that he's a filthy ennui, of course. He's quite an interesting fellow, a bit of a loose cannon to be sure. But there's no denying his talent. A touch of madness with his methods, but he sure gets the job done. He paid a heavy price for his hubris, didn't he? Just goes to show, the scrolls of Icarian flight are not for everybody. They really shouldn't be messed with at all, in my opinion. But if they are to be messed with, my advice would definitely not be to try to fly. Also, how many Bosmer does this make? 3 Bosmer. 3 Bosmer ennuis from a predominantly Dunmer province. That's 3 Bosmer too many. We will be breaking down the most unhinged ennuis you could ever meet in the Elder Scrolls IV, Oblivion. Out of all of the games in the series, the sheer amount of chaotic alignments in Cyrodiil makes me even think how the mongrel dogs of the Empire even have an empire. This list does not include the denizens of the Shivering Isles, as they require their own separate sermon. We have plenty to go over in Cyrodiil, so without further ado, let's begin. Our first category is random citizens, and yes, Nerevar, in this place, forsaken by me, Dagoth Ur, you need categories for the unhinged. The more I look into it, the more I see that each category needs its own sermon. Yes, Nerevar, it is this bad. We start with the only non-ennui. Oh, how I wish she was an ennui, Falanu Hlalu. The Dunmer alchemist in Skingrad, Falanu Hlalu, is a fascinating individual. She runs the All Things Alchemical shop, with an incredibly disturbing penchant for those who were laid to rest, apparently. She asks you questions that are quite poignant. She wants to take certain liberties, and she got exiled from Morrowind due to her odd desires. Apparently, her first shop near Lake Rumar has been permanently closed after some unusual incidents occurred. While details are scarce, it is suspected that Falanu's unusual proclivities caused the burning down of her first shop. Let's see here, our next ennui is Glarthir, who is a Bosmer and completely insane. What else is new? He's convinced everyone from the local baker to the friendly neighborhood guard is part of a vast conspiracy against him. armed with sporks and spoons instead of knives and spells. Enwas Bernadette Penellis gives him a polite nod. Maracati selectives. Tutius Sextius looks at the same cloud as him, blades in disguise. Davide Surli's house is conveniently located for spying. Mastermind villain lair, obviously. The only people he talks to are figments of his imagination and the unfortunate soul he ropes into his delusions. His biggest fan club is the Skingrad Rumor Mill, and their motto is never trust a wood elf who whispers at pigeons. One disagreement, and this Bosmer goes from paranoid whisperer to axe-wielding maniac. It's like watching a teacup scrib morph into a rabid wolf, except with more existential dread. The only thing that the mongrel dogs of the Empire ever did right was put an end to him. Oh, and if you think we are done with these Bosmer Enois, you would be absolutely and utterly mistaken. Nerevar, imagine if you will, you fight all of these Enois and farm tools in the Imperial City arena, and you are approached by this short Jimmy Neutron-like Enois Bosmer. His smile and enthusiasm are unnerving. The expression on his face looks like he's been eating sour grapes. Those buck teeth of his would be better suited to the mouth of a rodent. You might be asking Nerevar what is so unhinged about him. Well, it is his utter devotion to the Grand Champion. He is willing to go as far as worshipping the ground that the champion walks on. The whole meaning of his life is following and admiring the Grand Champion. Can you believe how unhinged this is, Nerevar? He would be better off worshipping me, Dagoth Ur. Anyhow, I find leading him off somewhere nice and private, such as the Gerald Mountains, then zapping the poor cretin with a little lightning spell to be quite cathartic. Moving on, we have an unhinged farm tool, and by that I mean unhinged from his chains. Darji from Leowin, you know, that place stuck between two farm tool countries, that horrid Argonian and his pathetic attempts at humor. As if that was not enough, he jokes about being another type of farm tool, a Khajiit. The only thing that can be said about him, really, is that he is the very epitome of an unscrupulous individual. He does not make any sense, and his behavior certainly makes him unhinged. You cannot speak with him normally because he will keep making farm tool after farm tool joke. Yes, I understand that he does not fit the bill of a random citizen, but he is so low on the Thieves' Guild totem pole, he is just a random merchant for our purposes. If you are enjoying this sermon, please don't forget to honor the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned by raising your thumb, subscribing to my sermons, and writing names of even more unhinged Enois and farm tools on the parchment down below. Also, if you want to make a sermon of your own, check out those Enois voice wizards at 11 Labs by exploring the inscription above and below on the parchment. Moving on, the next Enois is the ever-annoying Mazoga the Orc, who used to be a bandit, and now, after the breakage of her farm tool friend Ravindra, she suddenly decides to be a knight. And you know what is even worse? A farm tool named Weebamna recommends her. Who does this Enois think she is? She is a former bandit, acts like a bandit, and now we have to entertain the fact that she is a knight. What a grand and intoxicating innocence. The mongrel dog count of Leowin will even scold you if she perishes during the quest named after her. Seriously, why does he want a bandit as a knight? I mean, what else do you expect from a place stuck between two farm tool countries? That is not all, Nerevar. You get to go on a second quest with her, and now she is officially a knight, even though she still has the mannerisms of a bandit. Either way, she is one of the most jumbled up and chaotic characters from Cyrodiil. A brief mention goes to Farwill Indaris, the Count of Cheydinhall's son. He is not unhinged, but mostly stupid for going into the gates of Oblivion, to a place where destiny is made, unprepared. He definitely borders on unhinged, and is almost as insane as Mazoga. I mean, I know only one other Dunmer that does this. You also have Snak Grabura, the Enois orc that owns Chestnut Handy Stables. And through the conversations with her, you find out that they do not sell horses, but instead this is a front business made to satisfy the hunger of the owner. Seriously. She brags about eating horses with onions. She does sell you the last remaining horse she has, and she does create horse armor. Oh, don't get me started on that Nerevar, it just works. Let's leave it at that. Then you have Agamir, the Enois Nord grave robber, who even has a book called Macabre Manifest. He takes goods, gold, trinkets, and other things from the recently deceased, and sells them to Thorinir, who is, of course, a Bosmer. We can't have anything unhinged without at least some Bosmer involvement. While this is definitely not the best behavior, what makes him unhinged is the unusual interactions. He cannot be persuaded, and he is always hostile and is entirely off his mind. I mean, seriously, you can already tell that the man is problematic. You have to be a little unhinged to be involved in grave robbing Nerevar. The jury is out on Thorinir, though. It is unknown how much of this madness he was aware of. Of course, the most unhinged random citizen in Cyrodiil is the hero of Kvatch, who progressively becomes so unhinged that he becomes Sheogorath, the Daedric prince of madness himself. I mean, two things that remain unanswered throughout this sermon. Why does he know the answer to Falanu-Hlalu's particular question? Also, why does Glarthir not trust anyone, but is very adamant about speaking to the hero of Kvatch, and only turns on him if he is not assisted in his paranoid delusions? Perhaps the hero of Kvatch was always destined to become Sheogorath, or upon completion of the Shivering Isles quest, he naturally attracts unhinged individuals. You can watch my sermon on the hero of Kvatch in the inscription down below. Let us go over the most unhinged Skyrim NPCs. First on the list, we have Cicero, an imperial mongrel dog, obsessed with Dark Brotherhood activities, and the Night Mother, on a level only found in Psycho. His backstory is quite sad, and to an extent mirrors the story of Lucien Lachance. He goes insane once the whole Cheydinhal sanctuary is eliminated. He pretends to be the adoring fan, and once he is in Skyrim, Astrid, the Astrid Simp Club leader, sees him as a threat to her leadership. Anyhow, the Dragonborn has a choice either to end him or spare him to indulge in his unhinged shenanigans. While I understand his loyalty to Sithis and the Night Mother, those two false gods, I do not think they excuse his unhinged behavior. In fact, I would not blame the Dragonborn for getting rid of him, not just because of his unhinged behavior. I mean, seriously, Nazir wants to get rid of him because of his excessive dancing. Truly, he belongs in the realm of the Shivering Isles. The second most unhinged NPC is the Breton Enwa Iola, the one-eyed worshipper of Nemira that can be found in Markarth. Ah, Nerevar, this one is the most problematic NPC since Jeffrey Dunmer from Oblivion. You remember who I'm talking about, Nerevar. You see, Iola is all about food and gourmet cuisines. However, she eats enwas and farm tools, and will teach the Dragonborn how to do the same thing. She leads a whole coven of cannibals. She has even tasted Draugr. Who in their right mind would even try that, Nerevar? I assume she would at Corpus Flesh, too. What a grand and intoxicating innocence. Is that how she would honor the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned, by eating Corpus Flesh? I will address this coven at a later point, but there are some other unhinged NPCs in her little organization that won't make the list. Nerevar, don't forget to honor the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned by raising your thumbs, subscribing to my sermons, and writing on the parchment down below. Otherwise, Falanu-Hlalu will visit you tonight. Next is all the Hag Ravens and all the NPCs that aspired to become Hag Ravens. Honestly, Nerevar, they require their own sermon because there are many reasons to hate them. Seriously, these are some of the worst Enwa farm tool hybrids out there. Moira, a Hag Raven that wants to marry the Dragonborn. Her sister Anise, who wants to create a witch's coven. Sisters Melka and Petra and the affairs of Hagravens is also quite the tedious task. Ilia, working to slay her mother Sylvia, who wants to become a Hagraven, and many, many other unhinged affairs of the Hagravens. You get the gist of it. That's going to be coming soon, Nerevar. Let's not forget Narfi, a target of the Dark Brotherhood. There was a whole mystery surrounding his sister Rhaeda, and why she might have perished. There was a lot of suspicion falling on Narfi, and someone also wanted him dead. That NWA detective Camelworks has quite a bit of content on this topic, and multiple compelling theories regarding what happened to Rada, and why there was a contract on Narfi. All I know, he is an unhinged, raving lunatic who does not honor the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned. I would definitely argue my fellow Dunmer Neloth and his experiments are quite unhinged. He might be an intelligent Dunmer from the somewhat respected House Telvanni, but just like Cicero, that does not take away from the fact that he is unhinged. He tried making hearts from the remnants of Red Mountain, and he used that on his assistant to resurrect her. He thought the experiment failed, but in reality it resurrected her. She rightfully tried to end him, but to no avail. Somehow the mongrel dog, Falx Carius, also got one of those hearts, who was not unhinged in Morrowind, but did become unhinged in Skyrim. Ah, Hamelin, such is the plight of the unhinged. His ideas, once seen as groundbreaking and innovative, were dismissed as being too dangerous, too irresponsible. No one could see the potential, the greatness that his experiments could have brought to the world of magic. Instead, he was cast out, relegated to the darkness of the tunnels connecting the Honningbrew meadery to the boilery. But in those dark and damp chambers, he continued to experiment, to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. His venom-fang skeevers may have been seen as abominations by some, but to him they were his greatest creations, his magnum opus. He saw the potential in these creatures, and with them he would have shown the world that his ideas were not as dangerous as they thought, that he had the means to push the limits of magic to new heights. But alas, it was not to be. In the end, his unhinged mind was snuffed out, and his experiments were left unfinished. In other words, he was a worthless Enwa. Next is Septimus Signus, a tragic figure if there ever was one. His desire to study the Elder Scrolls, to comprehend the mysteries of the world, was admirable, but ultimately proved too much for his fragile mind to handle. The sheer power contained in those ancient scrolls was simply too much for him to bear, driving him into a state of near madness. Yet even in his crazed ramblings there remained snippets of genius, whispers of a cube containing the heart of Lorkhan. But it was all too late. His mind had been shattered beyond repair, leaving him a mere shadow of the great scholar he once was. Why, Landrya, what a character! A forgetful little Lenoir Bosmer mage who tends to chat with herself and is absolutely obsessed with research. She's always misplacing things around the city and seems to have more enthusiasm than sense. The poor thing gets absolutely fixated on her research, often to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. Bosmer are always unhinged, Nerevar. Not to go over Dark Brotherhood as much, but they tend to have a lot of unhinged characters in their midst. Babette the Forever Child seems to be using all the classical movie tropes from Interview with the Vampire and Let Me In to lure her perverted prey and finish it off. You know she is not as unhinged as everyone else on the list, but her whole existence is unhinged, as well as her victims. Let us move on to mongrel dog Calixto Corium. He is an unhinged one indeed. Calixto and his sister Lucilla lived a life of luxury and adventure. They traveled the land, amassing a collection of rare artifacts such as the Book of Fate, the Dancer's Flute, and Ysgramor's Soup Spoon. Their travels brought them great joy and excitement until Lucilla unexpectedly passed away one day. Heartbroken by her loss, Calixto honored her memory by opening a curiosity shop in Windhelm, showcasing their treasured collection and keeping her memory alive. Calixto's grief from the loss of his sister, Lucilla, led him on a dark path. He began to practice necromancy in secret, hoping to bring her back to life. As part of the ritual, he, mildly put, got rid of several young women in Windhelm, using what remained of them to perform the spells he needed. He kept a diary detailing the elements required for the magic to work. He also acquired a necromancer's amulet and Nordic embalming tools for his crimes. He even planned to get rid of Susanna the Wicked, taking her tendons for use in his ritual. It was a twisted and disturbing act, and it earned him the nickname the Butcher. However, he hid his crimes well, leaving only whispers of his dark deeds in the shadows of Windhelm. He even took up residence in Hierim, using the house for his ritual. While Sheogorath and his minions are a separate category, I want to ask you, Nerevar, have you ever heard about the tragedy of Pelagius the Mad? A cautionary tale indeed. It's almost enough to make one feel sorry for the poor fellow. All that power and the madness to go with it. Even as a boy, Pelagius showed signs of the madness that would consume him. He was a creature of contradictions, charming yet erratic, intelligent yet impulsive. These traits, however, were largely ignored, masked by his status as a prince and the political turmoil of the time. When Pelagius was 10, his uncle Sepphoris I seized the imperial throne, plunging Tamriel into another decade of war. After Sepphoris's victory, he foolishly placed the mongrel dog on the throne of solitude, a decision that would prove disastrous. Pelagius's reign as King of Solitude was marked by bizarre behavior and erratic decisions. He imprisoned foreign dignitaries, tore off his clothes in public, and even attacked his own subjects. Despite these alarming signs, the Empire turned a blind eye, blinded by their ambition and the political alliances Pelagius's marriage to the Dunmer Cataria Rathim offered. In Third Era 145, Pelagius ascended to the imperial throne, a position he was utterly unfit for. His reign was a farce, a puppet show orchestrated by his wife and the Elder Council, who desperately tried to conceal his madness from the rest of Tamriel. But the truth could not be hidden forever. Pelagius's eccentricities escalated into full-blown insanity. He spoke in gibberish to foreign ambassadors, used the floor of the White Gold Tower as a Khajiit farm tool letterbox, and even bit his own subjects. Eventually, he was confined to an asylum on the Isle of Bethany, where he spent the rest of his pathetic life. The mongrel dog of the Empire died in Third Era 179, a mad king in a madhouse. His reign was a stain on the history of the Septim dynasty, a testament to the Empire's blindness and the folly of their ambition. Even in death, Pelagius' legacy continues to haunt Tamriel, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the Empire's gilded facade. Of course, we could say that Ulfric Stormcloak and some of the Thalmor are unhinged, but I will make a separate tier list of the unhinged. There are quite a few of those. For now, Nerevar, don't forget to honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned by raising your thumbs, subscribing to my sermons, and writing on the parchment below. I thank my loyal patrons for not being needies. Special thanks to the adoring fan Connor, Runda, and immense gratitude to this realm's Sharmat Tanya Davis.